In Las Vegas, they say the house always wins.
No. Wait. This is Doyne Farmer. And that's Norman Packard. These two physicists didn't just play roulette. They hacked it. This is the 3D documentary of how two science nerds took on Las Vegas, beat the system, could have made millions, and brought the house down.
Roulette is a physical system, and if you can measure the initial position and velocity and you know the forces acting on it, you should be able to predict what's going to happen.
We spent a tremendous amount of time our first summer actually taking data.
That allowed us to make a very accurate measurement about the distribution of where the ball was landing.
We had an accurate production function.
I was constantly feeling like we were right on the edge, and Doyne was pushing too fast.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the wheel can't be beaten, because if you use physics...
Roulette isn't quite as random as most people think.
Treat life like a casino, cause every day's a gamble. We stay strapped like Al Pacino, yeah.
Okay, let's begin. Doyne and Norman weren't gamblers. They were just two physics students at the University of California who loved chaos theory, mathematical modeling, and wild ideas. To them, roulette wasn't just a game, it was a puzzle. Every spin looked random to the naked eye, but they saw patterns and believed physics could also govern it. Roulette is a French word meaning little wheel and is a classic casino game. Its wheel has 37 numbers in European and 38 in American one, with slots of different colors. Players have multiple options to bet, betting on a single number, a range of numbers, a single color, or etc. Once bets are placed, the croupier spins the wheel in one direction and rolls a small ball in the opposite direction. When the ball stops in a numbered pocket, the croupier announces the result, and winning bets are paid according to the odds. 35x for a single number, 1x for red or black, and so on. Doyne and Norman's hacking journey started simple. One day, they snuck into Vegas casinos with a dictaphone strapped to one wrist. Each time the roulette ball passed a fixed point on the wheel, they'd tap a button. The timestamps captured the data, speed of the ball, and the spin of the wheel. When they were back in their dorm room, they crunched numbers, and patterns emerged. Real, measurable, repeatable patterns. It was enough to make any scientist giddy. But calculating bets on paper took too long, and they needed to process everything during the game. That's when the madness really began.
The observation was that a roulette wheel is a physical system. So physical systems follow Newton's laws. In addition, after the croupier releases the ball, typically 10 seconds or 15 seconds elapse between when the ball leaves its hand and when it comes to rest on the wheel. So, and the bets are kept open until like a second before the ball actually lands. So we said, we're physicists. We'll write down the forces acting on the ball, solve the equations of motion, measure position and velocity. Okay, how are we going to do that?
So they built a computer, a small one, just barely wearable, strapped to the chest with wires running down to switches in their shoes. They'd click once for wheel speed, once for the ball. The computer would process the data and vibrate against their skin, signaling which section of the wheel to bet on.
Money, green. It all started with a dream. Getting rich in the rush, now I mean. Money, green.
Their first real test was terrifying. Doyne sat at a table of a casino, pretending to be just another broke college kid, but under his shirt, the computer buzzed with predictions. Slowly, cautiously, he started to win. But sweat, literal sweat, started short-circuiting the pads on his chest, sending sharp shocks into his ribs. So, Doyne had escaped, but with a strong proof, their system worked.
Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we did it by putting switches in our shoes and building the first wearable computers, which the computer was under one armpit, 12 AA batteries were under the other armpit, and we could run for about an hour and a half. We had lots of hardware failures, but we did successfully beat the house with about a 20% edge.
Next, they tried to scale it up and called the group Eudaemonic Enterprises, which wasn't just about money. They wanted to use their winnings to fund a utopian commune for scientists, so they recruited other science students, trained them, built more computers, and created a two-person strategy. One person recorded the data, the other placed bets, acting like a casual player while their partners sent silent signals. In a short time, 16 baby-faced physics students launched what can only be described as a mathematical assault on Vegas. Divided into 8 teams, they hit multiple casinos at once. They were turning small bets into thousands. But soon, success brought heat. Security teams noticed the odd betting patterns. Young players are winning too often. One player had electrical burns on her chest. The computers were malfunctioning, and the pressure was mounting. Doyne was once dragged into a back room for a chat. Friendly questions at first, but sharper ones followed.
You've been lucky tonight. Care to tell us your secret?
Just when it seemed they might search him, a security emergency pulled the pit boss away. Back at the hotel, the team was tense. Some wanted to quit, but Doyne and Norman pushed on. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about proving they could outsmart the system.
I was constantly feeling like we were right on the edge, and Doyne was pushing too fast.
Their final run was bold. Hit multiple casinos in one night, small bets, quick exits, and it worked. Kind of. But tension was visible. Sweat, stressed, buzzing wires. At one casino, security zeroed in. Another almost spotted the device. The dream was crumbling under its own ambition. Back at their hideout, the team faced the truth. They had beaten Roulette, but Vegas was catching on, and it was only a matter of time. They decided to end it, so they split the money, $10,000 each, modest, but meaningful, and more importantly, they left as friends. Years later, Doyne broke his silence. "I didn't want to give the casinos any clues," he said. "They proved something far more valuable, that with science, determination, and a bit of nerve, you really can change the game."
That didn't make you rich, though.
No. I have to say, why aren't you rich? We were foolish. We didn't raise capital, something I've learned as a businessman you need to do. We started playing dimes. We were impoverished graduate students and built our way up from there. We had lots of hardware failures, and we were afraid of having our kneecaps broken.
Okay, the story is finished, but we think they should have continued to siphon more money. It took almost 2 weeks to handle all of these animations, so if you enjoyed, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.